For this video, what I want to do is show you how to use a conditional statement in a spreadsheet. A conditional is a compound statement in the form of if P then Q, or sometimes you will also see it if P then Q, else S. So an example of this would be if it is raining, then we will stay inside, or else we will go to the beach. So that would give you an example of an if P then Q statement, else you would do something else. A spreadsheet often uses this to do calculations that an accountant would withhold, or do different formulas for different scenarios. So the format that you have is something like this in example 1. An Excel spreadsheet uses the expression equals if A1 is less than 10, if the statement is true. If you have a value that is less than 10, if this is a true statement, then it tells you to use 3 times A1. This would be, if it's a false statement, this would be the else part. Okay, so this would be the else. So this would be if A1 is less than 10, then do the 3 times A1. Or else, if it's a false statement, then you would use this formula. So the way the computer would work is you would look at your values and see if it's a true or a false statement. So a computer is going to use logic and see if it's true. So for the first one, A1 is 7. So A1 equals 7. You would plug it into the first statement. So you would ask yourself, is 7 less than 10 true or false? So since 7 is less than 10, this is a true statement. So that tells us we're going to use this formula right here. And so the computer would do 3 times 7, which gives us 21. So the output that the computer would give us would be 21. Okay. The second one is if A1 is 12. So now we have A1 equals 12. So our computer would look at the if part and see if it's true. 12 less than 10. Well, this is a false statement because 12 is greater than 10. So it would go to the false equation and do 5 times the A1, which in this case would be 12, which gives us an output of 60. So what I'm going to do is just show you how this looks actually in Excel. So if you pull up an Excel document, we would put any number in A1. So let's say that we put the 7 in A1. So A1 just represents that you're talking about column A, row 1. And so I could click on any column. So let's say that we used column 4. I could type in the equal if, and it's going to say, it's going to check whether a condition is met and returns one value if true and another value if false. Okay, so we would put in our first statement if A1, so I'm going to just click on A1 and then type in less than 10, comma, then we're going to use the formula that we have. So the first one is, if true, we're going to do 3 times A1, comma, and then if it's false, we're going to do 5 times A1. So I just clicked on the cell, and then you'll see that when I hit enter, it's going to give me a value, and it's either going to plug it in the 3 times A1 or it's going to plug it into the 5 times A1. So when I hit enter, notice it gives us the 21 that we got. Now we can check it with the 12 to see if we were correct in our mechanics, and we can see that 12 times 5 is 60. So that's how an if then else statement works in Excel. So the next one, what I want to do is I want to give you the criteria, and then we're going to try to come up with the formula that we would plug into Excel. So if we wanted to write a spreadsheet expression for the following, a payroll clerk has to withhold 22% of income for taxes if the income is below $25,000, and 25% of the income if the income is $25,000 or more. So with this, you could plug it into Excel in one of two ways. The first one is going to use the condition that it's below $25,000. So we would just type in equals if, and you always have to put the equal sign in Excel or the spreadsheet to show that you are plugging in a formula. And then you would put in your statement. So we would say whatever cell we're talking about. So I'm just going to use A1 again. If it's less than 25,000, below means it does not include it, then we are going to do 22%. So 22% as a decimal would be 0.22. So we would plug in 0.22 times, and we always use the asterisk symbol for times in spreadsheets, A1. If the statement is false, then we would use the 25%. And 25% as a decimal would be 0.25 times A1. Okay. We could have also used the other statement, the fact that if it's 25,000 or more. So we could have typed this in equals if A1 is greater than, or, and I always out of habit do equal to, but in Excel, the way you would type it in is A1 greater than equal to 25,000. We would do this time, if this is true, we would do the 0.25 times A1, or else we would do the 0.22 times A1. So sometimes you'll have to come up with the expression to be able to type in, and sometimes the expression will be given to you, and then you just have to figure out where you're going to plug it in to get the value. You would act as if you were a computer. As always, thanks for watching. If you have any questions, please let me know. If there are additional topics you would like me to cover, please let me know that as well.